So it's September 16th, 2025. I'm calling to order the Concord Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. So the first order of business is to approve minutes. We have two sets of minutes that have been distributed, one for June 5th, 2025, and one for August 14th, 2025. Mariana. I should do a roll call anyway. So Rebecca,
Here.
Nick here, Ellen,
Here.
Mariana,
Here.
and myself, Mark Gales.
Fine, okay.
Okay, does anyone have edits or corrections to either of the sets of units that have been distributed? No, okay, they look okay, all right, great, okay, so we've approved those today. Okay, chair's report, very brief, I think, because we have a lot of things to cover, but main thing is, since the Article 8 town meeting was further endorsed by majority vote at a special election, there's added impetus to prioritizing various types of transportation infrastructure and safety improvements. And we're gonna be discussing some aspects of that later and hearing an update from Alyssa Sandoval, our Community Development Director. I wanted to mention that Rebecca Woodward has been helping the Climate Action Committee with some of the review of progress on transportation aspects of the Climate Action Plan that's going to be revised. Another thing is I asked Heather to send out to everybody a flyer on the Safe Routes to School schedule for the 2025-2026 school year, and we'll get that posted somewhere on the tech page as well for the public. Okay, so that's my chair's report. The next next item is review and discuss a redraft of the bicycle safety materials, and so I will ask Melanie Deneen, our health director, to take the floor. I can pull up.
That would be great if you could pull up.
I will try to pull this up. Let's see.
So Phil worked with my colleague in Great Meadows Public Health Collaborative on the, I guess it's really a one pager, it's 2 pages long. Two different documents, the same content, so they're not designed to go out together, they're like two separate. To retool some of the words and the graphics specific. So I'm presenting this for feedback, to the tech for their review.
Can we get that bigger so we see?
Yes, we will get it bigger.
Yeah, I only printed one, I guess I sent it. I don't know, normally
Okay,
for this, you want printout, but I don't usually print. If it went in the packet, but
There is.
in the future, I can always do that, I'm flexible.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
One to pass around.
Was it in the email? Or is it posted?
It's on the current meeting documents packet,
Oh,
and let's see where the I'm sharing.
To name a few things, we changed the graphic of the cyclist to be a more upright cyclist. We specifically worked with Phil on language around the law for reflection and lights. We weren't intending, but a little bit unclarity in those words.
What's the difference intended purpose of the two sides?
One has a section that's kind of driven towards drivers. There's one side has a box in the bottom left that we've removed, specifically. On one side, drivers share the road is, identified by our planning team to have, and a number of people, to be very targeted toward different. And then we went back and forth about, well, is this going to cyclist or road in the audience, where we had some of the discussion here last time. And the decision was to keep it and have two, but we won't use it like that, like we'll put out one or the other. Ron Holsinger has viewed this document,
So
didn't you?
you're gonna distribute both or just one at the end? and figure
Whichever
out
one
which
I feel like,
Oh, good, that's
or
great.
you feel like.
I mean, you're using them in different purposes or different venues?
Could be, depending on the audience, I mean, I think, one has specific direction towards drivers. Drivers share the road. The other one does not. It's only cyclists.
Okay,
Okay, that's the difference. If you're asking me.
Sure, so if you're going to different meetings or different audiences. you
Correct.
use one or the other.
And one of the feedback is the first time, and when it came from me, the first draft, I received the draft with the drivers share the road. And the feedback from a couple of my colleagues was, this is a lot of words, can we simplify it? And so the other side took out that specific piece to try to make it
just
bigger.
one question.
Correct.
So I know, I'm sorry, I wasn't at the first meeting, so just help me out on this one. We did have a member of the public who came and was confused about basically cyclist behavior around cars. And is it right that cyclists are not allowed to ride 3 abreast? Or that you have to?
You're supposed to be 2 abreast.
Okay,
is
I mean, I wonder if there would be something.
I'm going 3 along.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been on roads, and this is what this woman was saying, where cyclists don't go back in line when there's a whole line of traffic, and what I think it does is it angers drivers, and then they potentially get disrespectful. I don't know if you know, maybe that's too much on there. but
I actually studied this a bit. Under Massachusetts law,
Okay.
drivers or
Could you,
bicyclists
Jordan,
are allowed.
Jordan, could you just identify yourself?
Oh,
and,
sorry,
let-
Jordan
let you
Newbold,
add to the
124
discussion.
Hillcrest Road. So I did a bit of looking this up. Bicyclists are allowed to use the whole lane. So if they want to, they can sit in the middle and you have to pass them as though they are a car. I know a bunch of other stuff about cycling law, but that's the only one that really applies to what we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean,
So here's what I've
legally, I'm
learned.
not sure that's true, but I'm just, it's just maybe the table, it maybe it's not important for this, it just is something that I have seen. That you often, racing teams are very careful by going back into line if there's a line of cars behind them, as opposed to like when families sometimes are 2 or bicyclists, sometimes a couple of breaths, especially at Route 2 on Walden Street. It's just, I've just seen a lot of potential.
So there is a lot of back and forth with different points of view. What I've learned so far,
Mhm.
No, I just meant
Is
the
that
law.
I
Not
do believe that Jordan is correct, that the law is when you're a cyclist and you're on the road, you're like a vehicle and you have the rights. But you also must obey the same laws as a vehicle, which means stopping at stoplights,
Mhm.
signaling to turn, like all of those things.
Okay,
Okay.
even if you're significantly below the traffic, the speed.
Doesn't-
Yeah, that's,
Doesn't matter?
Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
all right,
Correct.
thank you.
my understanding is that you have a right as a person and the cars need to yield to you or pass you.
I think that is
It's a
important.
social issue, it's not.
I think that it's important to educate drivers, because that is the opposite of what I've heard.
Well, it's
from
important to
other things.
educate both drivers and cyclists,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, okay.
the point is.
It's also possible, the other thing I learned from studying laws around bicycles is that a bicycle can opt out of traffic laws by acting as a pedestrian, as in sticking to sidewalks and crosswalks instead of just being in the road, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a maximum speed for that?
I believe you would then have to, I don't actually know if there's a maximum speed, but it essentially, you probably wouldn't be allowed to go really fast, like above the speed limits for a motorized bicycle. And you would still be held accountable if you drive a bicycle recklessly as a pedestrian.
I thought the
Okay.
law, Mark, I thought the law was you couldn't drive a bike on the sidewalk.
Okay,
and
just a minute, I'm gonna, yeah, so let me make a suggestion, that, perhaps we should review this document in terms of, is there anything in the document that we think is, incorrect or not helpful? And then this document, I think, has a lot of helpful information.
Mhm.
I'll let, the membership decide. But given that there are, complexities of the law and also the way the law gets interpreted in courts and things like that, I do think going forward, collecting information, factual information, third-party government information, regulations, and potentially having links for people who like to dive into more of that, is something that we could,
So
collaborate on.
this document has a lot more detail.
Right, so there's that
And
second.
it's the second
document.
document, which does talk specifically on the laws. And in more, because I think some of the feedback from the first session, what I heard is this discussion about details in the law. It's
Yeah.
impossible in one document page to get everything that pertains. And so, Phil worked, and I didn't bring, well, for me, and then that's not something I have to, work on. But it is, talk specifically about sidewalks, about the roads, and it's
Okay.
more detailed, and it is about bicyclists. This is, so just to frame this is focusing on bicyclists. We talked about other issues and other things last time, but we decided the scope was broad, right? So to focus on bicycling at this time, and we can move on to other things,
Mhm.
like as
Sure.
the group would like, or as needed. In a series, if you're interested,
Mhm.
right? But the focus was to decide to stay on this.
Okay,
At
but
this
I think.
So the other document has the more detail, like Jordan was talking about, specific addressing the laws, and specifically addressing the sidewalk questions.
So,
Yeah.
so the 2 pages is,
This one.
to kind of get ourselves,
Yeah.
keep ourselves focused. The 2 pages is going to be one flyer or 2 flyers?
Two different flyers, one page
Different
flyer,
flyers,
think of it as
okay.
a one page.
So I recommend maybe that, TAC, examine and approve those 2 flyers from the standpoint, is there anything here that seems, incorrect or unhelpful? And then, separately, the longer document, who put that longer one together?
There was
Is that?
Phil worked with, Kelly at Great Meadows. I wasn't involved with that one. He had a draft of something from another place that we can't like plagiarize. So
Okay,
they worked with content in Massachusetts law to
okay.
make one that we
So
kind
there,
of
so
own.
there can be, I noticed there were some QR codes on that, but there could be links from these documents to much more detailed.
Correct.
Document. I think that might be something, useful, and, for the record, could you state what organization?
This is Mass Bike Laws and this is Mass Bike, so right on this is the QR code to
Right.
some of the links that you were talking about.
Okay, but but I'm wondering whether on these, one-page flyers, there's room to put a small QR code to
Mhm.
go to that other longer document, which then has QR codes to actual laws and things.
These are gonna be available online as well as in printed form?
However, yes,
Yeah, because then the QR codes and all really helpful. I mean, I'm not the links, if you put in actual links.
Yeah, or put in links if it's. on-
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if,
Yeah, I think availability both ways is great.
yeah, and so, and as we know, some people want to go into great details and have coffee table conversations about the laws, that what the coverage is and what isn't, or.
Their
all
opinions
that-
about their own mix. Well, I would move that we accept endorse the
The two
two one page.
one-page flyers. With the long, some suggestions and things
For immediate use.
or links, when they're posted, at least put the links to more detail.
right, they have
They have-
resource links in them that when
Yes.
you see the actual, not the. Online, you would see Mass Bike, Safer School. And Mass.gov bike, so there's links on there that if it's in the digital form, you can click on.
Okay,
If it's in print form, the other document has the QR codes, this one does not. If you wanted to add QR codes, I can see.
it might get cluttered.
It's a
I think it's already busy.
Um,
I think it's the right, it certainly.
It's fine.
Shouldn't get more cluttered.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
good.
I think that one has different, that is more QR code.
Okay,
based.
so we have a motion, right? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? No, okay, as for vote.
Mark?
Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
I'm sorry, I had a question, just for
sure.
clarification. Where is this flyer gonna go?
Well, for one, it would go on the Health Division website. I don't know, if TAC wants to put it somewhere, that would be up to them. I would distribute it on social media with police, like, but I don't have a specific target exact location at this point.
So it's for people who are seeking information about what the guidance is for cyclists, and so then this would be something they could find. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
And actually, I have one other question. So at the bottom, displayed there, it says Bedford, Concord, Carlisle, Lincoln, Sudbury, Wayland, Weston. Are we?
Why is that, why are those all there?
Yeah, I mean, in other words, we're kind of voting to say this is good. Are those other towns in some way, shape or form endorsing this or whatever?
So what that means is Great Meadows Public Health is
Okay,
those towns.
okay.
So they're branding, but if you say, we don't want it on there, I'll take it off. It's not a big deal. So
Uh,
Great Met, so on the top, there's two logos. One is the Concord Health Division. This is our new logo. And the other one is Great Meadows, and that is funded through a Public Health Excellence Grant.
I think that strip at the bottom is confusing because it doesn't explain why the communities are listed, so I would. Rather than make it more busy, I think I'd just take it out.
Okay.
I would agree. So we are amending your motion. Okay,
Yes,
all right. And I have a second for the amended motions. Yes,
Okay.
okay, all right. Are you fine, Rebecca, with that explanation? Okay, good. All right, take a vote. Rebecca? Okay, Nick?
yes,
Alan?
Abstain.
You want to say, okay?
Sure,
Mariana?
yes.
And Mark, yes. Okay, good. So we take care of that. Okay, next is an update on the Stantec transportation strategy work and timeline. Alyssa, are you prepared to give us some more information?
Yeah, we just started work on the comprehensive transportation strategy with Stantec on board as the consultant. And they really started working diligently on this starting this month, so just starting in September. And what I'd like to do is to share a timeline for the project. Oh, it looks like I'm not
Okay,
able
I
to
can,
share.
yes, you are. Now you're.
Oh, okay, great. Let me just share that. Okay. Just kind of walk you through this. Are you seeing this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the timeline for the project. I'll just kind of go through each of the tasks. So we just began coordination on the project in August. The next task is to identify the key findings and gaps, whether that's data gaps or areas that, there might be more transportation needs in terms of bicycle pedestrian improvements, some of the other items that have been flagged in the last public forum that was in actually 2 years ago in 2023. So there was already a public forum on this plan. So that work is happening between September and mid-October. And then Stantec is working on a matrix of solutions and recommendations for transportation. And that is it follows on and kind of builds on the analysis of key findings and gaps. So that is from mid-September through beginning of November. And I wanted to highlight here where we have a workshop with TAC, where Stantec is going to provide the key findings and gaps as well as the matrix of solutions and go through that with TAC. And we kind of identified October 28th when you already have a scheduled meeting to go through that. And we would like to, I think we would like to take, if we can, that whole time to really devote to this effort. And we are trying to have somebody from Stantec actually attend in person. So, so that would be the meeting October 28th is what we're targeting. And then the plan is really to send for your review a draft matrix before the meeting so that you have something to, review and react to. So it's not coming just, completely out of the blue. So that would be October 28th. And then we have an engagement, public outreach and engagement planned with a public workshop. It is scheduled for November 19th. That's a Wednesday. And we have reserved the Hardy Wheeler meeting room for that, where the big public meeting room is. So that is that we haven't finalized the time, but we were thinking something like 6:30 to 8 might be good, so people can come after work and there'd be, kind of plenty of time
I'm
for
sorry,
that.
the specific date, did you say?
In November 19th. Cause we were trying to avoid other, other big committee meetings and holidays and there's a lot of stuff going on between November and December, on a whole host of, areas. So November 19th seemed to be the best and Hardy Wheeler was available as well.
Can I ask the matrix, what is, oh, I'm sorry.
I have a conflict in that date, so.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Can you make a morning or is it just like?
It's,
day.
it's a late, they have a committee meeting, NRC meeting at 7 o'clock.
Okay, well, we may have we are working on potentially scheduling a morning session as well.
That
Just
would
to be able to have more, input from different people. So that is scheduled for November 19th.
I had a question, just so I remind myself, the matrix, how specific is this gonna be? Is it gonna be specific projects that are prioritized or categories of,
Mhm.
sort of specific projects so the public can come and see?
I think it's gonna be both, so there's gonna be some recommendations that are not necessarily like a specific
Yeah.
building or like construction project. But I have asked Stantec to really look at some of the work they've done with asset management and public works to identify 5 to 10 key projects to move forward with, that are actual projects, design, engineering and construction.
Will there be specific safety improvement? I get a lot of questions from folks about specific safety issues,
Right.
and I wonder if
Mhm.
those are gonna be. I don't wanna misrepresent this to folks I speak to. Will those be presented, or is it gonna be
Mhm.
based on a higher level than this
Mhm.
particular area is dangerous for pedestrians, it's dangerous for bicycles?
I did mention to Stantec that there is definitely a heightened interest in safety. So I think they're gonna look at any recommendations with that lens in mind. So I do think that
Okay,
is,
all right.
is gonna be addressed in the plan, so. Yeah, and so then, then we get to just really documenting this and creating this plan. With all the input from TAC, with the public forum. And that is scheduled, that work is gonna be from December through March. I'm really aiming to like really complete this plan at the end of March and Stantec, I've asked that they just have one, final presentation where people can come and really, they can present the plan, people can learn more about it. So I thought that would be good, just kind of wrap it up and sum it up in one presentation.
That
So
would be a
that would-
public presentation?
Yeah, that can be a public presentation, yeah. Mhm.
So just a question, I'm just wondering how this interlocks with Public Works plans for construction next construction season, next summer. Because I imagine they'll start doing some of their planning this winter for what roads they're gonna do and what extent of some of the safety improvements, so
Mhm.
I assume they're looking at this or seeing this about this time and having a conversation with you about how to get those to mesh.
Yeah, no, I'm working closely with Public Works engineering staff, so I think we're gonna make sure that everything is kind of
Right.
integrated, so. So that's that.
It might also be an opportunity for public works to give an additional public quick update on what's actually already planned and underway.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because
Yes.
it's a moving machine, right?
We go through that when we have it scheduled.
But I'm saying that if we have a public outreach session to get public input, it's a place to update people quickly instead of having
Mhm.
people say, I would like this done, when they might find out it's already being done.
It's a good point. So when we have a public meeting, there has to be some connection with what Public Works is actually doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I sent them the, Public Works has updated their main website with an update on their current projects under construction, which is really helpful. And I think it's important to reflect the projects that are high priority for Public Works and, you know, with input from the public and TAC, because this is really gonna help, the town be competitive for grant applications. If it's a project that's documented in this plan, then it's gonna have, more, you know, it's gonna be looked on, a higher rated for grant success, so.
Okay. And since Public Works has been mentioned, Andrea Solomon, Chair of the Public Works Commission is here. Do you have any additional comments or on the conversation?
Not specifically, just to reassure you that we do cover that projects in our regular public meetings already, but certainly a joint public meeting or joining in anything you guys have planned, we're always
Okay,
interested in that too.
good. Yeah, I think it's important to use opportunities that are, it costs something to set up the opportunity. We should use it to convey concise information and updates to keep people informed, whoever happens to be there. Rebecca, you?
I still feel a little muddled about this. So, Stan Tech is working on this and, but then that plan, and this relates to the Public Works, conversation, that plan then needs to go to engineering, right? Is that correct? Like this is the planning part, but then it still needs to be operationalized to be able to be confirmed. Am I understanding that correctly?
I don't know if it's exactly linear in that way. I think that these things are happening at the same time. So planning and Public Works, staff are gonna be working together on this plan to make sure it reflects what's, you know, the projects that are high priority, on the Public Works, Commission side and Public Works engineering side of things. So I think they're working in tandem and also overlapping.
I appreciate that. So from the public's perspective, right, what comes out of the Stantec process, given that it is collaborative with Public Works, is it fair to say that they can assume it's going to get done? I'm just trying to think of the various authorities and permissions that need to happen for the public actually to see results from the planning.
Well, I think that there's gonna be some results that are gonna definitely be happening as a result of this plan. But some of the recommendations and solutions may be longer range. And so I can't tell you that everything in the plan is gonna be done right away. Because the plan is gonna have a number of, you know, recommendations are gonna be shorter term projects that are able to be accomplished. There's gonna be some mid-range, and then there's gonna be longer term projects that are just gonna require more coordination, more funding, grant applications, and those kind of things. So so I guess I don't think I can tell you for sure that everything in the plan will happen, but I think plans should be aspirational, and some of the things can happen, and some of the things may be things that we're gonna be aspiring to.
Thank you for that. And it's reassuring that there's collaboration already with Public Works. So that's a great sign. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Paul, Select Board Member Paul Bomar, liaison to Select Board, is raised his hand. Paul?
Yeah, hi. No, just apropos of the conversation here. My understanding, correct me, Alyssa, if I'm wrong, part of what Stantec is doing is strategic and longer term. It is aspirational, and it's going to take a while to convert those into projects, into budgets. But some of it also is going to take a look at actual current needs and maybe current projects, and some prioritization will take place as part of that. So I think it's going to be, in my understanding, it's going to be a mix. So to
Yes.
answer the previous questions, some of that may be already doable in terms of budgets, but others are longer term. It's going to take some longer term planning. But I think the value of what Stantec is doing is both strategic, longer term, what are the transportation needs of the future, and part of it is very current. So I think it's going to be a blend of what can be done right away versus what needs longer term. Is that kind of your view
Yeah,
of it,
that's
Elisa?
totally,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly right, Paul. And I, if I could have put it that way, I would have, but yeah, no, totally, correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Can you clarify, we're talking about the roadway improvements contract, right, with Stantec?
No.
Or
No.
okay,
This
the
is-
planning
This
study.
is the
big-
planning study, yeah.
strategic study.
Awesome. That clears up my concern.
All right, any other questions on the update? Obviously, if there are dates that people need to reserve, it would be good to make sure that people know about that as they
Yeah.
firm up and
Yeah.
whatever, and there may be cases where we need to post some things as Public Works Commission or tag meetings in case the forum shows up and it becomes a public meeting, so everybody can participate and weigh in.
I would just say, I think it's great that there's so much public
Mhm.
communication outbound and inbound. I think
Mhm.
it's something that, I really appreciate taking the big,
Mhm.
having very specific public input, very specific public communication.
Mhm.
Would help a lot.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna move on to the next item, which is kind of perhaps a little bit less defined, and that is discussion and update around coordination of TAC, traffic management group, public works, select board, et cetera. I wanted to keep it kind of broad to make sure the public knew what could come up. So there have been some meetings of traffic management members, staff members, Ms. Sandoval and Andrea Solomon, chair of the Public Works Commission, myself, chair of TAG, and I'm sure there are other continuing and many more internal staff discussions. Elisa, can you tell us anything about how we're moving forward in in parallel with the long-range strategic study and in terms of in parallel with whatever is being done, public works and engineering, in terms of actual implementation, in terms of internal, how these things mesh together and what things may be different going forward or opportunities?
Yeah, I can share a little bit. So, I mean, as you mentioned, we have convened a working group. So that includes yourself, Chair of TAC, Chair of Public Works Commission, Select Board Member, Paul Bohm is here and is also participating in that, the Public Works Director, the Town Engineer, and the Police Chief. So what we're doing is looking to create a more efficient and transparent process around the requests that come in for the public on, safety, traffic, various requests that come in. So we've had a couple of meetings so far, and it is still a work in progress. We hope to have a joint forum with the Public Works Commission, Select Board, and TAC to lay out a new process. And to, really share this new concept that we've been working on publicly. I would say that it's going to be different. It's going to be a different process that is more transparent. We're looking at creating a master list of projects that can be shared with the public, whether that's on a website or another method, but we're looking at creating a master list that will show the public where are the different requests, where are the different projects, and where they are in the in what stage they are, whether it's if it's under review, if it's in a planning stage, if it's in engineering stage, if it's in construction stage. So that is what we are currently working on, and I think that the feedback from the public has been really good in a sense of like really getting us kind of motivated to really really look at this and make these changes. So that's, the public forum is, I believe, tentatively scheduled. We don't have a date yet, but I believe it will be sometime in October. So,
So question, with this then for Stantec projects, are they
Right.
gonna be with, if it says it's, you know, in process and engineering, would that be one of the possible, status? Like, it's been, it's in the works right now.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm,
perfect. I
mhm.
think that's great.
So there was mention previously of a joint meeting of Select Board, TAC and Public Works Commission.
Mhm.
Is that what you mean by the public forum, or is there?
I'm sorry, it was not really, maybe it's, public forum is not the right word, but a meeting,
Large
a
public meeting.
large public meeting, you know, with all the, with all the three, boards.
Okay, I just want to make sure
No,
people
correct.
know whether it's something
I was
separate. or
getting it
it's the
confused
same-
with the public forum of the,
Would that be
transportation
open to the
strategy.
public?
Yeah,
It would be, yeah.
It's a joint,
Yeah.
it's a
A joint meeting open? to the
free
public?
committee
Mhm.
meeting. Okay, any further questions on that? Sounds like next month we're gonna be learning a lot more about the details of
Mhm.
these developments.
Mhm.
Any further questions from TAC?
Okay.
Okay, great. Then I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item. And it's discuss tax public facing functions, goal statements and charge. Now, one of the reasons, there are a lot of reasons I put this on the agenda, but one of them is that our TAC member Rebecca Woodward had sent to me a draft of a TAC goals statement that I want her to present to TAC. Since it's coming from an individual TAC member. And so implicitly, would, represent her view on things. I thought the best judge of the best place to share this with TAC was, during an actual meeting. And it also, I think, relates to both questions of how, TAC can best explain and present its, function and limitations of its function to the public to keep expectations realistic, and also in terms of discussions about in the light of various changes between coordinations of different entities in town working on transportation, what appropriate updates or changes might be good as far as the tax actual charge, to make that clear, because the charge document is a result according to my knowledge, of a quick rewrite of a previous charge for a different version of TAC. And so it's not the easiest charge to understand. So Rebecca, I'm gonna give you the floor for a bit, and I'm gonna try to pull up that draft that you created. And if you can walk us through what your thoughts are, that would be good.
Sure.
So, I'm gonna bring this up.
Yep. I'll just go ahead and do the intro, Mark, while you're pulling it up.
Please,
that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks very much. So this motivation to try to rewrite this came from a couple different places. One of them was that Paul in our August meeting challenged us to be clear about our mission and to go for that. And then looking at the mission that was available as stated on the TAC website, yes, it had room for some improvement. So the rewrite that I drafted for consideration by you all is really based on the select board version, which is up on the Concord Town website. Basically just to mean that it's sort of simple and clear and written for someone who may not know anything about the town or about the different boards and such. So I took that same style. I also ran it by Paul and incorporated some of his suggested additions. So just to frame it for you, it's the goal of it is to be very public facing and just simple and quite clear.
Okay, and so to kind of clarify discussion, from your point of view, are you talking about a document which is a kind of a more detailed explanation to the public of what TAC is about? Or are you talking about a replacement for the current charge?
I wouldn't say, well, I'm not quite sure about the distinction between those two things. It started with really trying to clarify the charge that's public facing on the website. I think it does, though, fit really well into our conversations that we are having about what actually is the purpose of TAC and what our role is in relation to the other committees and the town staff. So to me, I guess I would say I see it as a combination of those two things. And if you scroll down, you don't need to go through the framing because we've just talked through that. If you scroll down, you'll get to the part that actually gives the new revised draft. So it starts there.
Okay, so do you want to read through it or shall I, to kind of, help? Well, okay, I'll read through it. So, the Concord Transportation Advisory Committee, TAC, has 7 members who are appointed by the town manager with approval from the select board to serve 3-year terms. TAC is the main public-facing entity communicating on multimodal transportation, safety and improvement projects. It acts as an advisory body to town staff and interfaces with Concord residents on a wide variety of transportation and mobility issues, including but not limited to working with town departments and committees. For example, Concord Public Works Commission, and Concord's Transportation Working Group to prioritize and implement transportation improvement projects, developing public transportation options, supporting critical transportation infrastructure like roads and sidewalks, improving bike and pedestrian safety and connections, promoting low carbon mobility choices. As a reminder, the current TAC mission wording can be found on the website.
Yeah, that was just part of the memo.
Yes, okay, all right. But so is that to replace the goals memo or to, anyway, so, why don't you, Rebecca, just say where you think this fits, and then I'd like to hear from everybody.
Sure. Yes, one of the main motivations was to rewrite and improve the mission statement that's currently up on the Concord Town website. And then related, the conversation that we're having, I think will also help us clarify for ourselves and then also outwardly to the public what our role actually is.
Okay, and the current statement is that very short thing that comes up.
No.
No.
The
Which
current
one?
statement is like 3-4 paragraphs long. If you go to that link, it'll show it.
Okay, I don't think I can link from here. But I can paste it in.
I take you to a different app, which you're not sharing.
Okay, are people familiar with what?
No,
which
I mean,
one?
Do you want me to try to find
Yeah,
it?
could you try?
Okay.
That would be great. So I'm gonna,
It says mission, does it mean the charge? Is that what?
is there something separate on the website that says the kind of a mission
we
statement?
have we
Yeah.
have a vision statement. we
It's-
have Goals, we have. and
There is
we
a
have-
charge on the website, yeah.
Yeah,
The charges on the website.
committee documents and correspondence.
The part that I was targeting was what's labeled as tax purpose. And it's on the TAC main webpage if you scroll down, and it's the description of what we are saying is our purpose.
Oh, yeah, committee charge.
I can't see what you're seeing. So if you go to the link that I sent, that's what I'm talking about.
It is a committee charge, Elisa.
Okay, I have it.
Oh, okay, well,
I have
yeah,
it.
the charge,
Do you want me to share it? Share the
sure,
current,
sure, that would be helpful.
the charge. This is more of the longer one.
Yeah.
This is not what I was addressing. So what I was addressing is on the main TAC webpage that shows the members of the TAC underneath the membership. It has a description of what we're saying is our purpose. That's the part that I was trying to rewrite.
Oh, okay, so just a website description.
But if you do scroll down on the charge, there's some similarity, you know, there's this big
Yeah.
background section, then there a number of bullets, which
Is the charge linked there, the one that we did update not too long ago,
We haven't updated the charge.
September 2000.
2021?
Mhm. Purpose,
Weren't we working on this like a year or two ago?
maybe time's crunched for you.
I'm like, was it?
The document she just pulled up says 2021 on it,
Right.
so I don't know if there was another one. It was-
Working on this as a committee, like within the I mean, 10 is definitely crunched, but like within the last year or two. No.
Don't look at me, I.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so, let
Yeah.
me,
It would be nice if there was something simple.
That's, and maybe that's the way that I think of it. I mean, maybe there are different things stated different places. But that's
Okay,
part
can
of
we-
what makes the whole thing muddled, right? So if we had a simple, and I feel like there's a bit that's just vernacular. I mean, in my mind, there's not much difference between purpose or charge or mission statement. But the point is that it's muddled. So this was trying to be very simple and clear in what our purpose and charge is.
okay, so yeah, clarity is important and that's part of, I think, the initiative going forward and transparency and, not kind of tripping over our feet.
If you
or other
scroll-
people's feet. So,
Sorry.
can you tell me where it is?
Scroll down.
All the way
Scroll
down.
down, there it is.
That
Go,
part.
yeah,
Oh,
purpose.
oh.
Yeah.
That
okay.
is what I was trying to fix.
Okay, great, that's great. I should have,
You read that or
clarified
make
that
it
earlier. Yes. So what I wanted to say point out about this is, so the charge is an important legal document. And, there's an interesting question in this case, because we're appointed by the town manager and the previous charge. That this was modified quickly, I believe, by the select board to create the current charge, was written by the previous town manager. And, depending who the appointing body is, which in this case it's town manager, the actual charge is probably a joint responsibility of the town manager and the select board, I would imagine, but that's kind of a legal question. And that kind of, seriously defines
Scope.
in either greater or lesser, in broader detail, what the scope of our responsibility is and where we should act and where we should kind of leave it to others to act. But this purpose, yes, exactly. This is a public facing description and it should be very readable. It should not be it doesn't have it's much freer for us to put this together than the charge, which is.
But Mark, if I can just interrupt, I
Yes,
think that,
please.
I think the purpose and the charge have to be consistent. But if you look at the charge, there are 8 items called the bullets in the charge. And I think you need to look at that. Maybe not now, but you need to kind of look at what the charge is and then see if Rebecca's items are an update to those 8 items or they replace those 8 items, because I think call it purpose or whatever. You need to have the mission of the TAC in the charge pretty clearly. And I think what Rebecca had in her bullets goes a long way, maybe completely, not completely, but goes a long way to doing that. So I don't know if I confuse things or clarify things, but I would focus on the charge and then lift from the charge whatever needs to be in the purpose, because I think the charge defines the mission.
Right, but I think, no, that actually helps clarify things and, because, we haven't had this specific discussion in tech recently, I wanted to kind of introduce this right now. We have another meeting in 3 weeks. We're back on a 3-week pace because things are certainly busy. And what the TAC members think about everyone in TAC looking at taking a serious look at our charge, taking a look at the current purpose, at the document that Rebecca presented, which we'll distribute to everybody. And should we post the draft as a current meeting document? Probably without the preamble and stuff.
For the next meeting.
Okay, and so everybody if TAC members are agreeable, why doesn't everybody look at this? One concern I have here is sort of the chicken and egg thing about the charge, in that we can, put together a public facing document. I think it's valuable and purposeful to put together a public facing document about what TAC understands its charge to be. But, and we can certainly critique the charge in terms of, from various points of view, but it's not up to us to write our own charge. That's not vertical, right?
Mark, just the last comment. The purpose that you're looking at here is exactly the same thing as the background in the charge. So this purpose was lifted from the existing charge.
Right.
Right. So it's just they're kind of part of the same thing.
That's a good observation. Yes.
So, I mean,
Michael, one of the things that I recall is in the charge is, it gives the Transportation Advisory Committee a fairly broad remit to get information from other departments, specifically, for instance, the school department is called out. And that's certainly a huge area of opportunity because they have a pretty significant investment in transportation resources. Their use is somewhat circumscribed by the state laws, I believe, and it's a big issue, and there are a lot of issues. For instance, how much children are driven to school by their parents as opposed to using this big investment in transportation infrastructure. So I'm not sure, I think there's something for the select board to consider in terms of the charge itself. How much it wants the Transportation Advisory Committee to try to do anything about that. I think the one that bothers me the most is how much children are driven to school by their parents, how much they walk or bike versus these half-empty school buses I see driving around. So I think that's a significant issue for the town. I'm not sure the TAC is the right place to deal with it, but certainly it involves some of the issues that the TAC is very concerned with. So Paul, I'm addressing this to you, Paul, I think we need some thought from the select board and the town manager.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as myself and not for the select board, I've always maintained that the school community is part of the larger community, and for TAC to ignore, transportation that's related to the school in terms of roads and road safety and everything, I think is a artificial separation. So I would think broadly and let the select board and others kind of discuss that, let the school committee discuss that. But your remit is transportation safety in the town. It doesn't stop at this, it doesn't stop at the well, it may stop within the school itself, but not leading up to the school. You don't handle the parking lots in the school, but it should handle. We have so much bus transportation, school bus traffic at certain times, and what Stantec is going to come up with may or may not impact the larger issues of how people move around town, including students. So I think personally I would think broadly, and but your comment about working with other groups I think should include the school committee as at least a conversation, if not advisory.
Did we conclude from a previous meeting, and I'm sorry I missed our August meeting, that the town was forming a public safety task force separate from us? That was Ron Holsinger, and I think we were talking about that in response to a member of the public's concern about their child getting to school in an area without school bus service.
Or it would be an area without sidewalks, I think.
Right,
And I think
without a
that
safe
the discussion we had earlier that Lisa was informing us on what's going on kind of in the this working group,
Yeah.
that is I believe aimed at creating that type of new, better coordination model. Because we have had for a long time this traffic management group,
Mhm.
which was created by the previous town manager many years back. And it was very, kind of, project, action oriented in terms of responding to particular locations. It wasn't really a strategy group. It didn't have integration in any real clear way with, certainly not with TAC. And it wasn't didn't have a public facing aspect, really. So this is exactly, in the works. And again, this definitely interacts with what, how TAC can be useful in terms of that integrated system of functions. So, I want to thank Rebecca and thank Paul for, initiating this discussion. I suggest, that what might be good is for TAC members to take on the job before the next meeting on October 7th of looking carefully at the currently posted draft purpose, which is, as Paul mentioned, just pulled out of the introductory paragraphs of the charge, and Rebecca's, together with Paul's input, draft of a clearer statement. And I suggest we look at it from different points of view, including whether there is basis for all of the statements in there in the existing charge, whether there's something important missing, which would be sort of a separate, kind of a separate discussion about whether something needs to be added to the charge, whatever, what Nick brought up about the school, I think is important. It's interesting, this next item on the discussion involves East to School, so that is kind of relevant here. Does any kind of further discussion, does that sound reasonable to just say we'll do some,
Well, one question, so
Yeah, go
are
ahead.
we? If I'm gonna look at those documents.
Yeah.
Am I looking at them from the point of view of the scope of our work as we see it, right? Because sort of everything descends from the charge as the select board and the town manager define it.
yes,
So, but we're kind of talking about moving back up into that space a bit and suggesting, based on our experience,
right.
what we think is relevant to include in the charge.
I think that is one aspect. There may be more than one aspect to our consideration of these things that is useful. And I think one of them is finding in the charge what already certainly makes sense to us, what we're doing, and covers it, and then putting that into this clear public facing form. But if there are gaps, that it may take time and the action of other parties like select board and town manager to actually, address that in the charge or in the emphasis that we place on the purpose statement. But I think we can juggle more than one ball at one
Okay.
time, and we should, whatever people think is useful,
Mhm.
bring to the next meeting. And I think we can probably find pretty quick consensus agreement on approving a revised purpose that matches up with what's in the charge. But I think at the same time, we can come up with a list of questions or suggestions for action.
So this would this be subject to revision as we finalize our charge? For example?
Yeah, I think definitely if the, it helps. First of all, the current purpose, I think, is not clear public facing on the TAC page. So that
Mhm.
Rebecca's draft, I think, goes very far to address that. So I think that can be done, and then it's not carved in stone and as charge or interpretation of charge. I mean, the charge is a legal document, but legal documents are subject to interpretation. And if you get two lawyers, you won't get exactly the same interpretation. So we're kind of together with select board town manager, I think, interpreting that charge. And there's also the question of the overarching purpose and spirit of a charge that goes a long way to helping a committee actually do something useful. because, you have to make choices actively about, are you just fulfilling the bare letter of it, or are you trying to actually accomplish what was the purpose of creating the committee, the purpose of creating the charge? Okay, so any further discussion on that? We'll put it on the next agenda, and if people can pointedly study the current posted purpose, the new draft purpose, proposed, we'll get that.
Could
Yes.
you-
I was just gonna.
Let me hear Ally first.
I should say, can you, just send out then Rebecca's document?
Yes, we'll send that out, post that as
Right.
current meeting documents. Andrea, Solomon.
I was just gonna suggest that, there's if you look at the committee websites.
Mhm.
Everyone handles that a little differently, stating their purpose, like Public Works doesn't even have a purpose stated, Select Board has an overview.
Mhm.
Finance Committee has a mission statement and committee operations, so the spectrum of that, like, is very
Mhm.
far and wide, so you can take inspiration from other committees if you see that, but like, yeah, your purpose should be lifted from your charge, and your charge is written by, as you said, I mean, you went over all that, but I just thought it was interesting as I was sitting here looking through other web pages that I thought, oh, they really span a lot there.
So just to kind of, take that, good, clarification, it's good to have more eyes on these things. I suggest that, members consider, first off, looking at the, proposed draft purpose and making sure that it matches up with certain things in the charge. And then also simultaneously, while you're looking at the charge, look at things that, may not be in the purpose or probably considered problematic or unclear in the charge. Because while you're reading the document, you're gonna have different thoughts.
Well, it seems to me that the communication process that Alyssa's
Mm.
talking about would be new.
Yeah, and then
And
there are
that's,
other,
that's what I'm thinking about, that it'd be nice to, just as long as we won't have defined that, but I think being public facing and public input is something.
I think
that's-
we're, I don't wanna say we're falling into a slot that's public facing, but I think that is, where do people go? I mean, there's this question, actual, current question of the public that we hear from, which is, who do I go to about concern about transportation safety, interaction between different things, including such things as parking for bicycles or cars, et cetera. Okay.
Hey,
so we'll put
hey,
that-
Mark, one last comment, because I'm gonna have to get off a little early.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there's an important punctuation in Rebecca's
Mhm.
purpose. So she had transportation safety without a comma. And I think transportation safety are two different things. I'm thinking
Mhm.
forward to the Stantec report, and that's both a strategic and operational. We talked about that before. Who is going to provide the advice on how to implement that? I think the TAC is going to play a major role in advising the various departments and the town manager and the select board on how to prioritize what Stantec comes up with. So thinking not so much of the past, but in the future, think about what's coming out of the Stantec report, and in the charge, I think you guys are going to help implement that, prioritize what's in that. So, and that's transportation safety. So I think, anyway, that's what I want to say. Just think about your charge in terms of, in part, what's coming out of the Stantec report and the role you're going to play in helping Elisa and others implement that.
Yeah, I think there's a role as an integrator, or an integrative role that the TAC should be playing, because we aren't a particular department or function that has a narrow purpose. So that's all.
Okay, I'm going to recognize that Daniel Stapleton, if you have a very quick comment. You have your hand raised.
Hi, this is Dan Stapleton. I'm a member of the public on 20 Conant Street. And I raised my hand now just because I wanted to catch Paul before he left. So if you're okay, could I just insert my question slash comment?
Yes, please
Yeah.
be brief. Yes, you're very
Yeah,
welcome.
so my question is really just about a little bit of it's kind of consistent with what your discussion is, but it's getting a little bit more clarity on what the specific goal of the Stantec study is. And I guess that overlaps with the charge of the Transportation Advisory Committee. And if I could just, the basis for my comment and question is that I live on Conant Street, which is very high volume street relative to its functional classification. And the Jacobs study in 2019, I thought was really enlightening in terms of the data that it presented. And in my opinion, and opinion of many of my neighbors and other residents, that one of the key issues is really volume, traffic volume, traffic capacity, and its effect not just on safety, but the quality of life. So that Jacobs study pointed out that about 90% of the traffic going through Concord, all three major areas, Concord is regional pass through. It's a non-destination traffic. And Conant is, as a local road, is supposed to have about maybe 800 trips per day. It has 4,000 trips per day. So you can kind of, I wondered if is that bigger discussion about traffic calming, continuation by Stantec of information and sort of goals presented in the cut-through study in 2019. Is that part of TAC's responsibilities, or is that the select board? Will that be part of what Stantec is considering? So, just a final reminder about the 220,000 trips that pass through Concord every day, only about 35 of them are local destination trips. So we really have a pretty serious problem, and it's really focused on about 40 streets specifically within Concord. So,
Thank you, Daniel. And you say go by Daniel or Dan? Dan Staples?
either one's fine. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Thanks for your comment. Yeah, I believe the answer is that all of the above, all of the Stantec study, the new working group on traffic management, et cetera, and the TAC, Public Works, Select Board collaboration. This is everything you mentioned is definitely within there, and information, those previous studies are being considered by Stantec and also going to be reviewed by us in this context. I think one thing that just a general comment is, I think the town has recognized that transportation is important for a long time, but we haven't really got our act together as in as global and organized a way, systematic a way as is required to really address these things where there are many interacting factors. Okay, I'm going to move on to the item 7, which is an update on the Alcott Safe Routes to School proposal, and posted in the current meeting documents are a map and a kind of I believe it's a mass thought Safe Routes to School suggestion of some lines and signs type improvements, et cetera. And I think Lisa can give us an update on actions related to that.
Thanks, Mark. So as you all know, there was a walk audit completed for the Alcott School, I believe it was last March. And what came out of that was a series of recommendations, everything from, improving crosswalks, handicap accessible curb ramps, and signs and lines on the roadway. So we are working, and specifically planning is working with Concord Public Works to put a grant application together for early October, which really will highlight some of those recommendations to target in the grant application. So we are pursuing that and hope to submit that. We are working with the school as well. So we have worked with we already reached out to the Alcott school principal. So we needed some data from them, and we're on track to submit that application early October. So
Perfect.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions, comments from TAC members?
No, that's great. I think that, you know, there's, talking about safety, there's so many overlaps between what we're doing in the safe routes to school and the lines and signs
Mhm.
that, I've heard crossing guards complain about, you know, drivers driving too fast
Mhm.
to Alcott. That's the same thing as I live near Thoreau at West Street. It's just,
Mhm.
I think I think our charge is safety overall, and there's
Mhm.
lots of moving parts,
Right.
you know, and lots
Yeah.
of funders. I'm always amazed at the amount of funding beyond our bond issue
Mhm.
to draw from.
Yeah, it was great to have the walk audit, to have all those recommendations like laid out in a table and, you know, be able to review them one by one to see what, you know, what makes sense to move forward with and really prioritize them. So, yeah, it was really
And it's,
helpful.
And I mean, it's kind of, should be sort of blindingly obvious, but it
Mhm.
recently just struck me looking at some material about the conjunction of all different modes of transportation simultaneously in a relatively short period of time concentrated at a school.
Yeah.
It becomes this nexus for, you know, people dropping off children by car or you know, the buses, the bicycles, pedestrians, et cetera, but and then how that relates to cut through traffic in areas or other types of things, people who've never been there before, they don't know there's a school, and issues about traffic calming measures that might be most appropriate near schools on certain other occasions. Any other comments on Safer School? Okay, and now it's a liaison observer comment time, and Paul, we actually are ahead of 11 o'clock cutoff, so I would love to have your comments.
Gee, I think I've interjected my comments along the way. I think there are a lot of important intersecting things you're working on. I mean, the charge is just a vehicle for defining what you're doing in the future, but I think the outward facing nature of the TAC is just really important, whether it's part of the group that Elisa talked about to update the community on projects, whether it's a venue for bringing issues, transportation issues to the fore, or whether it's helping to prioritize, future strategic things that Stantec is going to come up with. I think these are all very important things that are not necessarily new, but they're different for the TAC. So I think you have to think about all those in terms of defining what you want to be. I view the charge as, at this point, a statement of what you want to be, as opposed to what the town manager wants you to be. Now, of course, those are gonna have to be reconciled, but it's an opportunity right now to define your purpose, your scope, your mission, your charge, however you talk about that. So I think the timing is perfect to kind of think about these things. That's all.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, now I'll open it up to any additional public comment.
Daniel made a comment that I
Yes.
found interesting.
Yeah.
Which is, the premise of which is that there is some intended traffic volume for a street.
That's very interesting.
So I just think that in the terms of design for roadways and the transportation systems in Concord, there's a fundamental question about what's a fair volume on a street.
Yes,
Because they are public roads and they are open to all. And there's similar implication that, you know, that there should be a limit on a street. Maybe there should, I don't know, but there's a very basic philosophy that underlies people's assumptions about what's okay. And I think that's an important area to be explored.
I think that's interesting too, because we've talked a lot about the analogy to that of what is the right speed
Right.
for a street, and what we tend to do is to say it's 80% of what people.
if you want to
Yeah.
suggest, I mean, it's not required to take public comment and it's not part of the normal process to necessarily engage back and forth or whatever, but it's fine. But I would very much welcome suggestions for future agenda items to have deep discussions about some of these things, because looking at the, we're talking about looking at transportation in town as an entire system with all these interactions, and some roads are narrower and heavily populated, and some roads are broader and have, you know, they're
Yeah, there's
controlled intersections and controlled intersections and all that.
the fact that Concord has these rivers going through it to break it up, funnel the traffic in certain ways. And there are only a limited number of ways that you can get from place A to place B in Concord. And it tends to funnel things together. And, you know, unfortunately, it plays out in ways that is uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. We have good work, good work to cut out here. So, I saw Betsy raising her hand before. Do you have a comment, Betsy?
Yes, I don't know. I'm having issues, so I get, but I'm a resident in Edgewood Com, and I just wanted to bring up the need for more parking in the center.
Okay, you're breaking up a little, but you're making a request for or highlighting the need for more bike parking in Concord Center. Is that correct? Okay, we'll come back to Betsy if it works. Jeff Alls, do you have a brief comment?
I do, thank you. Jeff Halls at 78 Nimrod Drive in Concord. I wanted to mention, I think it's great that you guys are following up with the Alcott School safety audit. Definitely the fact that there isn't even a sidewalk that connects along Thoreau, where the high school is, and to Walden, I think that should be addressed. And also just Thoreau in general, it seems like a strange street where the speed limit goes up and down, even beside the area where the high school is. I don't see any reason why that area should have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit that just jumps up and down. I think the speed limits in Concord in general seem to be very strangely posted, jumping from 25 to 30 to 35, wherever and engineers decided that something can go a little bit faster, they've raised that speed limit. And I know there's a reason for that, but I think addressing the speed limits in general, to lower speed limits in our town would be a great start. And last question is, do you know if there's a bike plan that's being developed by Stantec along with all the rest of this work, like strategic spots for where bike lanes or bike traffic should be directed? That's a question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure that, I mean, that is part of the multiple modes of things being considered. But stay tuned and keep involved and keep giving us input. Mark Hansen.
Yeah, hi, Mark Hansen at 340 Holdenwood Road in Concord. I've enjoyed listening to most of your meeting. I did miss some of it because I had other things going on here. But one thing you mentioned that came up was the low occupancy of school buses. We did a school bus study, 2009, I want to say. It's posted on the town website. I encourage reading that about safety and school bus. We found the economics in terms of cost effectiveness. A school bus only needs to have a small number of seats occupied in order to become a better method for getting kids to school. And of course, the safety of school buses far exceeds the safety of a car, even if driven by a parent. The other comment I had was, what?
Especially, said Nick.
Well, in fact, there was one instance, I studied safety, and there was one instance where a car smacked into a school bus, and believe me, the school bus did better than the car did. not a good thing either way, though. Well, I used to be on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee, and one of the things that I advocated there, and I would like to see in this plan, is feeder routes for children on bicycles to get to the rail trails. I used to ride my bike to Lincoln Lab from Cananum, and I really appreciated the sidewalk that runs parallel to Sudbury Road from Route 2 to down to the crossing of the Sudbury River. I rode that every day because riding on the road, frankly, wasn't as safe, especially at rush hour. And I think those are the couple of comments I had. I would like to feed to you. I really feel that we need to have ways for people to get around town on electric bikes more safely. I don't think mixing them with cars is a good idea. And one other comment is in Minneapolis, they have pedestrian trails next to the Mississippi River. And they originally put in one for combined bicycles and people walking. And I noticed when I was out there a few years ago that they had separate trails for walkers and cyclists, because one of the alderman's wives got hit by a cyclist and he said, hey, this is no good. And a lot of people that have been on bike trails have said the walkers are a problem, and a lot of people that are walking on bike trails say the bikers are a problem. So it was really seriously consider that these are separate characteristics of transportation. Bikes like to go faster, walkers like to take their time, etc. Anyway, just some thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Jordan.
Since there was a lot of talk about the town center, there was one issue I wanted to bring up, which earlier this week I kind of exaggerated as playing as gambling with pedestrians' lives, and that is that there are a lot of pedestrians in the town center at times, but it's also very busy because it's a state route. And one of the ways that a lot of larger cities would deal with a large area often used by pedestrians is to close it, but it's a state route, and the state is, as I have learned this past year, uncooperative when it comes to pedestrians on state routes. And there's no way, even if they were, there's no way to reroute the cars because there's really no other way to do that. There's no other way to get through there without taking a large detour on Interstate 2 past Keys. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jordan. I think
I
that
could talk for a lot longer, but I have to leave in 5 minutes, and I don't want to hold the rest of you up.
feel free to put anything in writing and send it to me, or put, there's a input location on the TAC webpage, or link from the TAC webpage, and we really welcome input. More eyes on the problem, the more inputs, the better. Thank you. Okay, if there are no more public comments, I am going to adjourn the meeting as having completed our business, and it's 4 minutes short of 11 a.m. Good work. Bravo, everybody.
Good job.
Thank you.